Well, if this isn't the dumbest thing that I've ever done, um, this is a quick performance, unassembled, because that's how they come, rear end that I'm going to put in the car. And you'll notice it has been built with 4 lug, so I don't want to change stuff. And so it's going to stay 4 lug, but it's a 9 inch. So look at the axles. It's ridiculous. It's kind of dumb. But this is going to give me gearing options. It gives me a 9 inch, which is plentiful in parts. So it comes as a kit. I'm still waiting for the center section. I've already painted the drums. I am putting drums in the back. It doesn't need discs. I didn't need to go to that extent. And it is much easier for them to fabricate 4 lug drums. These are an 11-inch drum. So it'll go from a 9 inch to an 11-inch drum, which is going to help. And it's been machined, obviously, for 4 lug. So anyways, this is how it comes. The housing's in this box here. I'm not going to dig that out right now. You'll see. We'll do an assembly on it and everything. I've got some oil. I'm going to have to put a different drive shaft in it because I'm putting 1330 U-joints in it. I'm getting rid of the 1-inch cap, unobtainable U-joints, and putting regular Spicer U-joints in it. So I'll have to make a new drive shaft. That'll be the last thing that happens, though. Here's the axle housing. The shock plates and clamps. They're clamp and shock plate both. U-bolts, hardware. You have to press the studs into the housing, which I think probably just use hardware to do that, to pull them in. They're splined. So here's the first thing that we're going to do. We're going to install the studs in the housing. And this is something that some people may do, some may not, but I'm going to put a little bit of aviation forma gasket on the splines to keep it from weeping through. The gasket will keep the pumpkin and this sealed up, but you could have it leach through here and get up the threads potentially. Probably not so much with no pressure in here, and it's not going to leak as easily, but I don't want any leaks, and it's an easy insurance, so we'll just use a little bit of Forma gasket. Here's some Super 300. That'll work if it's still good. I've got various ones of this. The Super 300, I forget, there's something special about it. It's a little bit better than the regular aviation Forma gasket, but we could probably just put about anything on here. I don't want to use RTV. It's not really the right thing for metal on metal, unless you're actually forming a gasket. That's what you use RTV for. You put it on and let it sit for a while, and then it compresses a little bit. We're not doing that here. This is literally flange on flange kind of a thing with these studs. So we'll just use a little bit of this. We'll put a little bit on there, and that'll keep that from leaking. And then I think they've given us nylock, so we don't want to destroy the nylock pulling these in. I don't have a stud puller. That's the right way to do this, with a hydraulic puller to pull them in. So we will use nuts. I'm just going to have to, in my collection, find some 3/8. These are probably 3/8, 24? Is that what the thread pitch on these is? I can't remember if it's 3/8 20 or 3/8 24, because I think it's normally 3/8 16. But anyways, we'll find some throwaway nuts that we'll use to pull this in with a washer. Okay, so we got all the studs pressed in here, just slow and easy. If you try and force them, if it's getting too tight, don't push it, because you'll strip out the nut or the bolt or both. They did give me some extra hardware here too, which is kind of nice. The interesting thing is they're all marked Quick Performance. They have their own brand. It's a little hard to see in that one, but it does say QP on it. So anyways, this is how they ship the seals. I'm not totally jazzed about that, because they put the seals on here dry, but that's how they ship them. They just send it with it on one of the axles. So we'll take both those off, and we'll press the seals in here. I like to put a little bit of sealant on the outside here. We'll probably use some Forma gasket or some anaerobic sealant. Here is why I don't like why they ship those like that. See how the seals got, see it right there? They bent the lip by it being compressed up against the other seal. The other one's the same way, from being up against the metal. Alright, so we got the seal pressed in here. On this side I put some that form a gasket on there. I forgot to mention I use my bearing installer. I reverse it. If you don't have one of these, they're cheap on Amazon. It's a set. But this is like the perfect diameter for the seal on a 9-inch. So got that pressed in there. You can clean up the excess with a little acetone. Just, be careful not to damage the seal itself, but that pressed in really nicely. And this is why I don't like them shipping them with the seals on the axle. What it does is it stretches out the seal like it should be, and it's been sitting there for weeks like that. And I guess what I should have done is I should have pulled them off the axle, but I didn't notice it until the other day. But now when you pull it out, the spring is stretched a little bit, the rubber retracts, and it makes the spring a little bit loose. And then when you hammer them in, the spring falls off the backside. So what we're going to try and do is, and it did it on both of them, I realized the other one, the spring is on the inside of the tube. So I need to try and snake this in here with my pick and just, use my finger to get it around. I was able to get it back in on one side so far, so I just used an Allen key in this pick that I have and just kind of fished it in, and it popped in pretty easily. So minor inconvenience. So now with that hiccup fixed, got the other one back in as well. We're gonna put the brake backing plates on here, and that's about all we can do without the center section. We can't put the axles in yet because you got to have the center section in, obviously. So there's not a lot to assembling this thing, but I did want to go over it. So yes, the backing plates will go next. I am using drums with this, as I talked about, I think, in the beginning. We'll go ahead and do that. These are the bearing retainer plates for the axles when they do go in. Of course, we got the U-bolts and stuff. So let's take a look at putting the brake backing plates on there. They should be, they're pre-assembled, so there's going to be a left and a right. So this is upside down right now because it's the jacking pad. So if I was to flip this direction, that would be right side up, so that we know that this side is the driver's side. So we'll do this side first since I've got it flipped this direction. It's where I've got room to work. We will put the passenger side drum assembly on here. So if you're familiar with drum brakes, this will be boring to you, but if you're not, it's important. So since these are the drum brake assemblies, you do have a major and a minor side on a drum, okay? And it's pretty obvious when you look at it. And of course, these came assembled. But you see the minor side, or the front side, because that's not the side that's going to dig in as easily. So that shoe is always smaller and thinner. So see how this guy is shorter? This guy is thicker and longer. You can see the difference between here and here, and the difference between here and here. Okay. So this one that we're looking at right now, because we want the major side, we want that on the back. We know that this is the driver's side, okay? We know that this is the passenger side because same thing. It's going to be, if I'm looking at this from the passenger side, I want this on the back. So, and you can even see it's marked right too. That's the other thing. The adjusters do have a right and a left. That's another way to tell, although I wouldn't count on that. Because it might not always be there. But you can see there's a, maybe, I don't know if, there it is. And there, the camera will pick it up. Left and a right. But anytime you're assembling these, it's always good to know the big shoe always goes on the back. Are you just excited to get it in as I am? Are you? You get your Summit Racing shirt on. You're all ready to go. What do you think? 6 months. It took 6 months to get this center section. Yeah. Interesting, it has the odor of ATF inside. Guessing that this is the lube locker gasket. Alright, so they put it inside of a bucket. It's an interesting way of shipping it. And they pad it on the side with some cardboard. So we'll have to get this bucket out of here. Oh. You want to get in on the action too, huh? I mean, I could drink beer with these guys. they put it inside of a bucket, and then they put the bucket in a cardboard box, and that's how they ship it. So that's kind of cool. I'm hoping that the straps for this yoke, the pinion yoke, it looks like it's powder coated. It looks really nice. I'm hoping that the straps are down there in the bottom of the bucket. I can't lift that out of there, though. It's about 75 pounds. I might have to come up with something creative. But anyways, yeah, this is how they ship it. Kind of cool. Unfortunately, the bucket got 86'd right there. So that's kind of too bad, but I'll still keep it. I like it. So yeah, this is pretty much how I'm getting this out of here by myself without getting my cherry picker out. I've just got a ratchet here, heavy duty ratchet, and I just threw a sling around it. I just need something to hold it so I can get the bucket off, but you know, they wedge it way in there. I see why they would ship it this way, but if you're by yourself, it's almost impossible to get out. So yeah, once you get it out, then you can pick it up. It's not a problem. It's just they get it stuck in there. So it looks really nice. This is just the basic model. I like this as a billet pinion carrier. So that's nice. It's got a really nice yoke on it. Now the thing that's confusing me, maybe they don't include it, which is kind of surprising. The U-bolts for the caps aren't here. It wasn't. I expected it to be down in the bucket or something like that, and it's not. So I'm going to call them tomorrow and see if it was supposed to come with it. If not, you know, they're not very expensive. So I'd like to know, you know, what they recommend for it instead of me trying to figure out a bunch of research. It's probably just standard, but this is a 1330 big cap yoke. If I didn't mention that before, you have your options. They can set you up with the 1310 through 1410, I think. So anyways, this is all preset. They've preset all the preload and the depth and the contact pattern. As you can see, it's all preset. So that's kind of the nice thing. I don't have to monkey with that, although it's a lot easier when you've got a third member like this. So anyways, other than the U-bolts not being there, which is kind of a bummer, you know, this is actually, it's ready to go in. All we got to do is drop this in. The axles go in afterwards. Now I'm probably not going to do this on the bench because it's going to be so heavy by the time that I put that together up here that I won't be able to get it down. So the rest of this assembly is going to have to happen here on the floor. Now, if you've never heard of lube locker gaskets, you should. I use these anytime that they're available pretty much. So meaning if they have a gasket for the application, I will buy it. These are great. They're kind of like a soft composite with a steel shim sandwiched in between. And then they've got a Printo seal, kind of like Velcro's Printo seal on them. They're great. They seal. They're reusable. You don't need to use any sealer on them. They're fantastic. So anyways, I had ordered it and they offered it as an option with the rear end. I didn't have to buy it separate. I just paid a little bit extra. But these are great because they're reusable and there's no mess. We literally will wipe this up, clean this just a little bit. Same thing with the pumpkin. And then we just drop it in and cinch it down. There's no fuss or anything. So I highly recommend these. I've used these on transmission pans, auto transmission pans, stuff like that. They always seal. I don't think I've ever had one leak. So just for demonstration, I'm showing you with this on here wrong. This only fits one way. The pattern is ever so slightly not symmetrical. So you can see it doesn't go like this. It will drop on perfectly like that. Okay, if I flip it over, same thing. Let me see if I can pull this off here one-handed without ruining it, just to show you. Try it like this. Same thing. See, the pattern is just slightly off. So you what I'm showing you is foolproof. You can't screw it up. So you just drop it on there like that. I just use some Windex to clean this off. Nothing. I don't want to use anything strong. I don't want to melt the powder coat. I'll do the same with the center section. I'm just going to set this right in there. All right, so it fought me just a hair. This stud was just slightly off. And so when I was trying to put it in by myself, if it wasn't perfectly level the entire time, it would get hung up. So I had to because I'm by myself, I had to use a screwdriver carefully and not grab the gasket or anything. Kind of lift one side and level it, and then give it a little tap with the rubber mallet, and it slid right in. So I thought they gave me washers with this, but I can't find it. But I guarantee you it should have 3/8 washers, so I'm going to put them on there. You don't want these nylocks straight on there. So I thought they were here, but I guess not. So I'll just grab some out of my stash. Now there's one that you can't run a washer on. You can see it because of the way that it is. But I am going to do it on all the rest of them. But yeah, that's a little bit unfortunate. I bet that this housing is slightly enlarged to fit a bigger ring gear. You know, taller gears. I'm sure it's bigger than the stock housing. So anyways, it's not a big deal though. All right, they're in, and just German torque spec on these, at least for me, just because of the way that it is. There really isn't too much that's critical about that. With the washers, we're not quite, and some of them, it could be because I didn't either get the spline all the way in, although I was pretty careful about that. It could just be that it's thicker in this area because there's weldments. But we're not quite touching the nylocks on these. I'm really not that concerned about it, though. These are not something that's going to come loose. It's just because of the way that it's in here. The tensile strength here is really just to hold the unit in. It's more about torsional torque. So I'm not too... that's my opinion. I'm not too worried about it. So really all that's left now, now that the brakes are on there, and I don't remember if I talked about these. These are roll bar clamps that I bought. I'm going to use to set up the brake lines, because they don't give you a way to... They give you the brake lines. You know, I ordered it with brake lines, but they don't give you a way to attach them. So I bought some roll bar clamps that should work pretty well. But the axles go in next, and that's it. Then this rear end will be complete and ready to install. Now, before I get this totally together, so the bearing retainer, it's kind of obvious the way that it goes. You know, you can't have the open end on top because it'll interfere with the spreader bar for the brakes. Also, getting the bearing through this disc brake, they didn't give it much clearance. Honestly, they could have bored this out a little bit further. But anyways, that bearing retainer goes on to hold the whole thing together. And obviously, there's a hole in the axle flange to put the hardware in, like other Ford rear ends are like that. A lot of rear ends are like that, actually. So anyways, we just get this all cinched up right here. Quick tip here too. I recommend, if putting the axles in, leave a couple of nuts on the drum just to make it easier to get, because otherwise you're going to fight the drum flopping around on the studs, and the studs may be falling out. I think it's just easier to put the axle in and come in afterwards and back these out and put the retainer plate in afterwards. All right, both axles are in. I haven't torqued those yet. However, they give you split washers, and here's the deal with split washers. First of all, I don't like them. Split washers are a cheap and terrible way of retaining a nut. Actually, some industries disallow them completely. But if you put full torque on them, like if it says these are 3/8 fine, if you put full torque on them, it's just going to split the washer open. Like, you know, what is it, 35, 40 foot-pounds or something on a 3/8 fine. So we don't want that. So I just snugged them for right now, and I'll probably take them up to like 20 or 25. They don't have to be crazy. However, you should look it up and see. It's your car. You do what you like. We do what we want to do on this channel, and you know, you take responsibility for your own torque values. I'm not gonna give them to you unless I read them from a book. Next up, brake lines. Here's the kit they give you. Presumably the right lengths are in here. There's a T right there. I don't particularly like that there's no mount for this. I did look this week for a T that was an ANT that had a mount on it and stuff, and I really didn't find anything I liked, so we'll just use what they gave us. Like I said, I've got those roll bar clamps that I'm going to put on there. They got the adapters in here for the cylinders, so those go from flare to AN. should be pretty straightforward. Is kind of nice. They give you both fittings for the rear brake line connection on the car. They give you a 3/16 and 1/4 inch connection. I believe it's 1/4 inch like most cars are. You got a 1/4 inch line that feeds the back that splits off to two 3/16. But it's nice in case you have 3/16. They give you both. Both of these lines are the same length. Virtually, it seems like. Yeah, they're the same length. Which is interesting because the rear end, one, of course, they're offset. Rear ends are offset. This is the longer side over here, and this is the shorter side over here. I don't think it's enough to make a difference, though. These being the same length, it'll probably work out just fine. And, of course, they give you the your short line that would go to the car to that adapter. The adapter's in. Don't go crazy on these because, yes, you can strip out the fitting or the cylinder. They don't have to be, gorilla tight, but you want them snug. You don't want them to leak. But, here's the thing. If you make it too loose and it leaks, you can always tighten it a little bit. If you over tighten it, you're buying new parts. I don't particularly care for the length that they gave us. This is going to be, it's going to be a little bit, I almost want to redo this. I should say, this is probably good for anybody watching this that's going to do a quick performance rear end. I don't think I would order their lines. I would get a shorter line. And let me look and see. I might have, I don't think it's shorter though, but I might have some, I think this is -4. But I made sure that this will fit. I can get my U-bolts in here. So there's going to be U-bolt on either side, so that all fits correctly and everything. I got these clamps on here, which that's nice and all. It's just this isn't going to work out right because you think that they would measure this stuff. They sell these lines for this, so this is probably like the first negative thing I'm going to say about Quick Performance is that they don't give you the right length lines. That kind of sucks. So this is what it comes out like if you use the lines the way they give them to you. So that's pretty crappy. So the long side, it's probably about the right length, especially if we had a mount right here for this. But this is like totally the wrong length. I think I'm going to have to get something that's shorter. So yes, I ordered a 24-inch line for here. I don't know why that's a bummer. Should give them that feedback. This side looks good. This will work out fine. This is right about where we want it. That's where the brake line is in the car right now. We're around the same area, but this is totally wrong. So 24-inch, I measured it. It's going to be a hair long, but your options are really 24 or 18. They don't really make in between. And I'm not into making my own PTFE lines. So I think that's it for now. I think we'll wrap this up. Maybe do a part 2 of the install. Otherwise, it's just going to be real long. I just slipped the drums on there just to see how they'd fit. Let's take a look at the hubs, how they poke through there. That all fit up really nice, as expected. This is all they do is they build these rear ends. I mean, so I expected the fit and everything to be right. The only thing that was surprising was that brake line. You would think that they would have nailed that down. But otherwise, it's going to go in like this. I won't have the drums on it. I just slipped them on there for now because I want to try and keep the weight down. Debatably, you could assemble this in the car. You could put the third member in and leave the axles out and everything. I wanted to see how it was all going to fit together, and it's not really that big of a problem. I bought the housing with the jack pad on the bottom. I don't know if I talked about that, but that's an option. There is a pad down here. This right here, so it gives you a place to put it. It also gives you this nice big giant fill plug, which is also awesome. So we'll be able to get that onto the jack, no problem. I've got a couple of different jacks actually that I could probably strap this to, make it easy. We'll just drop the leafs down, probably from the rear, slide the old rear end, get it out of there, get this guy in there. So that it's not really the only thing with the weight is that I have to get it from here to the car. So anyways, I think that'll about do it here. It seems to have come together real nice though.